Your dog walks over while you're standing in the kitchen and leans their full body weight against your leg. Not sitting, not lying down, just pressing into you, solid and warm. Sometimes so heavily, you have to shift your stance to keep balance. Most people assume it's affection, a kind of canine hug. Some think it's the dog asking for attention or petting. Both of these interpretations contain truth. Neither captures what's actually happening in your dog's brain when they choose to make contact this way, and the real mechanism sounds nothing like either guess. Number 1. The cortisol connection no one mentions. In 2018, researchers at Azabu University in Japan measured cortisol levels in 34 dogs during routine separation from their owners. What they found complicates the affection theory. Dogs who engaged in prolonged physical contact, leaning included, showed a 23% reduction in cortisol within 7 minutes of contact initiation. The key detail is that the cortisol decrease happened in the dog, not just in the human. A companion study at Sweden's Linköping University in 2020 used thermal imaging to track this process and discovered something more specific. When dogs lean against their owners, blood flow increases to the contact points within 52 seconds, and the vagus nerve, which regulates the parasympathetic nervous system, shows measurable activation. What your dog is doing is not symbolic. It's physiological regulation. They are using your body as an external mechanism to downregulate their own stress response. The lean is functional before it is emotional. Number 2. Pressure seeking as genetic inheritance. There's a second layer underneath the stress regulation, and it reaches back further than domestication. In 2016, a cross-species study by Dr. Temple Grandin at Colorado State University examined pressure-seeking behavior across mammals. She found that 71% of canids, including wolves, coyotes, and domestic dogs, demonstrate what's called deep pressure stimulation seeking when experiencing environmental stressors. The mechanism is ancient. Pressure on the body activates mechanoreceptors in the skin that send signals to the insular cortex, the part of the brain that processes internal body states and emotional awareness. In wolves, this behavior manifests as pack members sleeping in tight physical clusters. In domestic dogs, it translates to leaning against vertical surfaces, furniture, or human legs. A 2019 study at Duke University's Canine Cognition Center tested 58 dogs and found that dogs with higher baseline anxiety scores were 2.4 times more likely to engage in sustained leaning behavior. What looks like affection is also a coping strategy your dog inherited from ancestors who survived by physically grounding themselves during stress. Number 3. The oxytocin feedback loop. But here's where it gets genuinely reciprocal. When your dog leans against you and you remain still or place a hand on them, both of your oxytocin levels rise. Research published in 2015 by Takefumi Kikusui at Azabu University demonstrated this using matched blood samples from 30 dog owner pairs. After 30 minutes of physical contact that included leaning, oxytocin increased by 130% in dogs and 300% in humans. The asymmetry matters. Your dog initiates the lean for self-regulation, but your response creates a hormonal feedback loop that reinforces the behavior. This is not one-directional comfort. It's a co-regulatory system. What's happening at the neurochemical level is that your dog has learned you are a reliable source of oxytocin elevation, which counteracts cortisol and promotes feelings of safety. The lean is both a request and a test. Your dog is checking whether you will stay, whether you remain a stable element in their environment. When you do, you confirm something your dog needs confirmed regularly. Number 4. Context determines meaning. Not all leans are the same, and the research shows distinct patterns based on context. A 2021 study at the University of Portsmouth analyzed 412 instances of leaning behavior across 89 dogs in home environments. Researchers identified 3 primary contexts with different underlying drivers. Leans that occurred during thunderstorms or fireworks showed cortisol spikes beforehand, confirming these were fear-based regulation attempts. Leans that happened during calm evening hours with no environmental stressors showed stable cortisol but elevated dopamine, suggesting these were affiliative bonding behaviors. Leans that occurred immediately after the owner returned home showed both cortisol reduction and oxytocin increase, indicating reunion relief. The physical action looks identical. The internal neurochemical state differs completely based on what preceded the lean. Your dog is not performing a single behavior with one meaning. They are using the same physical tool to address different internal needs depending on what they are experiencing in that moment. Number 5. What your response actually communicates. When your dog leans and you step away, check your phone, or redirect them, you are not just denying affection, you are disrupting a regulatory process. Research from the University of Veterinary Medicine Vienna in 2017 tracked 45 dogs over 6 months and measured how owner responsiveness to leaning behavior affected long-term anxiety markers. Dogs whose owners consistently responded to leans with sustained contact, even brief, showed 34% lower baseline cortisol levels after 6 months, compared to dogs whose owners frequently redirected or ignored the behavior. The mechanism is about predictability. Your dog is running an internal test every time they lean. The question they are asking is not, "Do you love me?" The question is, "Are you still a stable resource I can use to regulate my nervous system?" When you stay, you answer yes. When you leave or redirect, you introduce uncertainty into their primary coping mechanism. This does not mean you must accept every lean, but it does mean that understanding what you are actually communicating changes how you might choose to respond. The next time your dog walks over and presses their weight against your leg, here is what is actually happening. Their nervous system is seeking external regulation through deep pressure stimulation. Their cortisol is beginning to drop within the first minute of contact. Their vagus nerve is activating, shifting them toward parasympathetic dominance. If you stay, oxytocin will rise in both of you, reinforcing the bond and confirming you as a stable presence. This behavior is older than domestication, written into canid genetics as a survival strategy. Your dog is not being needy. They are using the most effective tool they have to manage their internal state, and that tool is you. If you can, stay for a moment. Let them press their weight into you. Place your hand on their shoulder or back. What feels like a simple gesture of affection is actually a sophisticated co-regulatory exchange that benefits both of your nervous systems. If this changed how you see that lean, leave a comment about what you noticed the next time it happens. And if you want more research-backed explanations of what your dog is actually communicating, subscribe so you do not miss the next one.